Kendrick Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of The Well-Planned Universe, authored by Kenneth G. Davis, read for you by Luke Kendrick, copyright 2021. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. Albert Einstein, physicist. Chapter 1. From Curiosity to Clarity. Fundamental questions. Ouch, he bit me. I was 8 years old, sitting too close to a teeming anthill. Those little red creatures were frantic and angry, and I soon learned to respect their territory. My curiosity piqued by observing the wonders of the world of insects. I began my journey of discovery. Over time, my fascination with insect behavior developed into an interest in all living things. Eventually, this interest further broadened into a desire to learn as much as I could about the makeup of the world, its inhabitants, and its relationship to the rest of the universe. This curiosity about the nature of reality and the world in which we find ourselves led me to pursue a degree in physics. Following university graduation, I went to work as a geophysicist in the petroleum industry, applying computer technology to the analysis of seismic data. In the past few decades, scientific discoveries and the development of digital computer systems have led to a much improved understanding of the physical properties of our world and the universe. Research into these characteristics and behavior of living things has also provided insight into why we find the world to be the way that it is. My goal in writing this book was to use recent evidence from these diverse areas of study to find answers to fundamental questions about reality and the universe, including what is the universe really made of? Why is the universe structured and organized the way that it is? Where did everything that we can see, hear, and feel come from, and why does the universe exist at all? Throughout history, philosophers have given much thought to these questions. With recent developments in science and technology, an opportunity now exists as never before to obtain answers. We no longer have to rely on the statements or beliefs of those who claim to have the answers, but only have opinions. Correct answers result from a proper investigation and require an objective look at all available relevant information. As you will discover, strictly following the evidence and using a multidisciplinary approach will provide answers. The evidence required comes primarily from three sources. The first is scientific data from the physical world. Recent scientific discoveries have led to a new, deeper understanding of our universe. The physical laws and properties of the universe are now understood in much greater detail than ever before. Evidence from physics, astronomy, chemistry, and biology is particularly valuable. The special nature of the physical laws and properties of the universe lead to some remarkable conclusions. The second are the behavior and characteristics of the many forms of life on Earth. The attributes and variety of life on Earth help to further explain and understand the significance of recent scientific discoveries. The third is the development of digital computer systems. Recent developments in computers provide a deeper understanding of living things and how they interact with each other. Accumulated scientific evidence from these areas leads to some amazing conclusions about reality and the universe. Following the evidence. I like to think of myself as an inquiring skeptic. I will not be convinced simply because an idea is widely published, sounds good, seems to make sense, becomes popular, or is promoted by people that I admire. As a natural-born skeptic, I require sufficient evidence before accepting or rejecting any claim or theory. The proper use of evidence is more important than ever before due to the widespread misleading, deceptive, or outright false information. Disinformation, altered photos, and opinions disguised as facts are becoming all too common. To be absolutely certain of something means that it is known beyond all doubt, and there is no need for a discussion of evidence. For example, there is no doubt that when a fire begins to spread in a forest, there will be smoke and flames as a result. There is no forest fire on Earth that does not produce smoke and flames. Likewise, when a basketball is tossed onto the surface of a standard basketball court, there is no doubt that it will rebound. Everyone accepts that the ball will bounce off the surface of the court. However, the details of precisely how fast or at what angle it will move after hitting the ground may lead to some discussion, as you may remember from high school physics class. Few things in life are as certain as these examples. Nearly every conclusion arrived at in life involves a degree of uncertainty, so using evidence is essential. Understanding the proper use of evidence will make it possible to arrive at a correct conclusion. Evidence consists of the information that helps to form a conclusion or judgment. Decision makers, such as judges and juries, make important decisions every day based on the evaluation of evidence. In the most important situations, a decision will be considered valid only if it can be supported by the available evidence, beyond any reasonable doubt. Beyond any reasonable doubt is the highest standard of proof used in the United States and many other justice systems. It refers to a level of confidence such that there could be no reasonable doubt in the mind of a person using sound judgment. The evidence presented to a judge and jury must be both material and logically relevant. By definition, material evidence has a significant relationship to the facts or issues under consideration. The United States Federal Rules of Evidence defines logically relevant evidence as when evidence introduced has any tendency to make a material fact more probable or less probable than it would be without the evidence. A skilled investigator will take note of things observed, but just as importantly will record anything they expect to see, but don't. They will look for inconsistencies in what they observe, and for things missing or out of place at the scene of the investigation. They will ask, "Why do I observe this?" But they will also ask, "Why do I not observe that?" And, "What is wrong with this picture?" Types of evidence. 5 main types of evidence are used in the court of law. They are all useful for investigating the fundamental nature of reality. Physical evidence refers to a tangible item with physical characteristics that tends to prove a material fact. It can be a physical substance or traces left behind from a relevant event, such as footprints that can be photographed and measured. Documentary evidence. Documentary evidence refers to some type of document, such as email, computer file, or magazine article that supports a claim or assertion. It may simply consist of a written description of an event from an eyewitness. Testimonial evidence. Testimonial evidence refers to a statement that tends to prove a material fact. An expert witness with special knowledge of a certain subject area sometimes gives testimonial evidence. It may also be presented by a layperson who has pertinent information. Demonstrative evidence. Demonstrative evidence comes in the form of a representation of something material, such as a diagram, map, drawing, graph, animation, simulation, or model. Computer systems have contributed greatly to the usefulness of demonstrative evidence. And finally, scientific evidence. Scientific evidence comes from either experiments or observations. The results from scientific evidence are sometimes presented in the form of demonstrative evidence. Each of the 5 types of evidence may be either direct or indirect evidence, or may have aspects of each. Direct evidence supports the truth of an assertion directly, so it does not require inference on part of the judge or jury. Eyewitness testimony, physical evidence, and documentation relevant to the issue are usually considered direct evidence. The usefulness of direct evidence depends upon the reliability of the source of information. Indirect or circumstantial evidence allows for an inference to be drawn that tends to prove or disprove a relevant point. Imagine a situation where, before going to bed one night, you notice a fresh blanket of snow on your lawn. The next morning you see footprints in the snow. The presence of footprints allows you to infer that someone has walked across the lawn while you were sleeping, even though you did not see anyone in your yard. Establishing the truth requires more than just one isolated piece of evidence. Confidence in a conclusion increases substantially when it is supported by different types of evidence from multiple sources. Inferring something from a single piece of information can lead to an incorrect conclusion, particularly in the case of indirect evidence that may be interpreted in more than one way. For example, consider a mother who has baked a fresh blueberry pie and put it on the counter to cool. After coming back from running an errand, she finds a piece of the pie missing. Her 6-year-old son enters the kitchen with blueberry juice on his face. With these two pieces of evidence, she can infer that her son had sampled the pie, even though she did not personally see him eat any. However, if the mother had seen her son with blueberry juice on his face before she entered the house, she should not conclude with that single piece of evidence that he had eaten some of her pie. She should first check in the house to determine if some pie is missing. Unbeknownst to her, her son may have been given a piece of pie by a neighbor, the neighbor having also made a pie since blueberries were in season at that time of year. This clearly illustrates the importance of evaluating all available relevant information before coming to a conclusion. Making a decision without using all of the available facts is sometimes referred to as jumping to conclusions. Taking time to gather pertinent facts and data will ultimately result in more clarity, leading to greater confidence in conclusions and in the decisions made based on those conclusions. A mountain meadow discovery. Consider now this example of how various pieces of evidence come together to lead to a convincing conclusion. A group of hikers come across a remote, isolated mountain meadow. They observe wildflowers and other small plants randomly scattered throughout the meadow. They also discover a section of this meadow that has a number of neat parallel rows made up of one kind of plant, but with very few of the native plants or wildflowers seen elsewhere in the surrounding area. They also find physical evidence, indentations in the soil that appear to be from footprints. These observations alone provide them with sufficient information to conclude that what they found in this section of the meadow was the result of someone's plan, and not some natural phenomenon or random occurrence. It would be fair to say that the observational evidence is conclusive beyond any reasonable doubt. If the hikers investigated further, they might find additional confirmation. Scientific evidence could show that the plants in the parallel rows were all of the same kind of vegetable and not native to the area. Documentary evidence in the form of a satellite photo from the area could show the contrast between the cultivated area and the surrounding natural vegetation. By studying the pattern of the footprints, the hikers could provide demonstrative evidence in the form of a diagram showing the footprints coming from a certain direction. There may be testimonial evidence from others who had previously passed through the area. They might then be able to identify who had left the footprints or when they first appeared. A variety of different types of information like this would provide overwhelming confirmation of what had happened in the meadow. Each bit of evidence is like one piece of a puzzle. A single piece of a puzzle may not reveal much, but when many pieces come together, a picture revealing the truth becomes clear. The physical, scientific, documentary, demonstrative, and testimonial evidence from the cultivated area within the mountain meadow proves to the hikers that someone had planned and planted a vegetable garden. As this example shows, different types of direct or indirect evidence compiled from a number of different sources can often show that a deliberately planned and intentional act had taken place at an earlier time. As you will see, evidence collected in this way reveals the true nature and origin of the universe and leads to some fascinating conclusions. As each piece of evidence corroborates the ones that came before, the picture becomes clear. Beware of bias. To arrive at the best possible conclusion, a person should take note of any biases, personal or otherwise, that may affect the decision-making process. It is not easy to set aside long-held opinions or beliefs that may hinder an objective evaluation of evidence. Throughout history, people have shown a strong desire to defend existing opinions or beliefs rather than questioning them or exploring new possibilities. The ancient Greek historian Thucydides, who lived between 455 and 400 BC, wrote, "For it is a habit of mankind to entrust to careless hope what they long for, and to use sovereign reason to thrust aside what they do not fancy." Beware also of confirmation bias, which is the tendency to cherry-pick evidence and or accept arguments consistent with a current opinion or belief while neglecting or rejecting things that do not seem to fit with that belief or opinion. This tendency is very common. Two people with opposing opinions can see the same evidence and feel that it confirms their point of view. Our tendency to take the easiest and quickest path to a decision often compounds the problem of confirmation bias. Expert witnesses with knowledge in a field relevant to the case are often called to testify in court. Expert witness testimony is sometimes given by two different experts trained in the same area of expertise, each supporting an opposite interpretation of the evidence. Like everyone else, expert witnesses may be biased.